Hello everyone, in this video we are going to work with mixed operations on fractions. Before we start, let's remember PEMDAS. Whenever we have an expression with more than one operation, we have to use PEMDAS in order to work out this expression. We should start with parentheses, then exponents. After that, multiplication or division. We work on these two operations from left to right. I start with the one I see first in the expression. And finally, addition or subtraction. I also work on these operations from left to right, which means I start with the one I see first in the expression. Let's take the first example. Before we start working out this expression, we have to state the operations that we can see in this expression. For example, we have here multiplication and parentheses. Addition is an operation, but it's included in the parentheses. So the two main operations are multiplication and parentheses. According to PEMDAS, we should always start with parentheses. So I can put an arc under the area I want to start first with in order not to get confused. I just copy the rest on the second line. Now, let's look inside the parentheses. Inside the parentheses, I have two fractions added together. So, before I start adding them, I have to think how I should add fractions. We already took that in order to add fractions, we should have same denominator. We should make the denominators the same. So I can multiply by 3 up and down to make the denominator 24. To make 6 24, I should multiply by 4. So I'm just changing the denominators before adding the fractions. So I have to keep the parentheses because I'm not done with them yet. 3 times 3 is 9 out of 24 plus 5 times 4 is 20 out of 24. Since I have same denominators now, I can add the two fractions under the same denominator, which is 24, and then I say 9 plus 20 is 29. So I'm done from parentheses. Thus, I have to move to the second operation, which is multiplication. In order to multiply these two sides, we have to change the mixed number into a fraction. So 2 times 7 is 14, plus 2 is 16 out of 7, times 29 out of 24. When multiplying two fractions, it's not necessary to change the common denominators into 24 or 7. It's not necessary to make the denominators the same. I just put them on the same fraction bar to use cancellation instead of multiplying the numbers and make them bigger than simplifying them, as we mentioned before. So it's clear that 16 and 24 can be simplified by 8. I can't simplify anymore because none of the numbers in the numerator share a common divisor with any number in the denominator. So 29 times 2 is 58 out of 21. I can change this into mixed number because the numerator is greater than the denominator. I can use long division. I will get 2 and the remainder will be 16 over 21. Or I can use the long division, 58 21 2 42 minus 16. And this is the final answer. Let's move to the second example. So they are quite easy when I just organize my ideas. I should mention the operation that I should start with and how to work out the fractions. Okay, so I have to list the operations I have here. The main operations: subtraction, parentheses, multiplication. According to PEMDAS, I should start with parentheses. I just copy the rest on the line until I reach them. So let's think. In order to subtract the fractions inside the parentheses, I should make same denominator. So the common denominator is 15. So I multiply the first one by 5 up and down, and the second one by 3 to get 15 in the denominator. I keep the parentheses now in this step because I'm not done yet. I'm just creating same denominators in order to subtract the fractions inside the parentheses. So 40, 12 out of 15. Of course, I have to copy the rest of the expression. Now, since I have same denominator and the fractions inside the parentheses, I can just work out this parenthesis by subtracting the numerators to get 28 out of 15. I should never forget to copy the rest of the expression on each line. Now I have subtraction, multiplication, the priority goes to the multiplication, of course. I should place the two fractions on the same fraction bar in order to use cancellation, because in multiplication, I never make same denominator. I look closely to the numbers in the numerator and denominator in order to specify the common divisor that I should use to simplify my numbers. Equal 13 out of 4 minus 10 and 15 can be simplified by 5 to 3. 28 can be simplified by 7 to give 4, and 7 divided by 7 is 1. I'm gonna get 8 out of 3 because I cannot simplify anymore. I also stop and think how I should subtract these two fractions. In order to subtract these two fractions, I should make same denominator. So I have to multiply by 3 up and down. I multiply by 4 because I decided to get 12 as a common denominator. I'm gonna get 39 out of 12 minus 32 out of 12. Since I got same denominator, I subtract the numerators under the same denominator, which is 12. 39 minus 32 is 7. So this is the final answer, 7 out of 12. Let's move to the third example. In this example, we have two operations, which are addition and division. Of course, the priority goes to the division operation. So I just copy the expression on the second line in order to work out this operation. I stop here for a moment in order to think how I should divide two fractions. We said that dividing fractions is a tricky concept, so we are going to multiply them using the strategy keep, switch, or change, which means that I have to change the division operation into the multiplication operation, and finally flip, which means I have to write the reciprocal of the fraction that just comes after the division sign. Now I have to work with these two fractions because the priority goes to multiplication. I copy the rest of the expression in order to work with it at the end. In order to multiply two fractions, I put them on the same fraction bar to do the cancellation process. Again, I copy the parts that I need to work at the end. Three and 12 can be divided by 3. 1, 5, 2, 4. I cannot simplify anymore. I just multiply the new numbers. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 4 is 8. Now I have to add the two fractions. I should also think, I should stop here and think, how can I add these two fractions? Well, I have to make same denominator. So I have to multiply the first fraction by 2 to get 8 as a denominator. 2 out of 8 plus 7 out plus 5. Out of 8 is 7 over 8 because I add the numerators under the same denominator, and this is the final result in its simplest